You know exactly the right colour to bring it out, and you put it's a builder's tea.
What Dad says.
Well, anyway, the average tea drinker has 62,000 cuppers in a lifetime, costing £6,222. I'd argue that isn't correct, because it's £4 for just a cappuccino, isn't it? Certainly in London now, at least £4. Yeah. Most of the money is spent on milk, averaging 6p a cup. Again, tea bags cost around 4p each, and electricity to boil the kettle comes to 2p per day. And one of the top tips is only put the amount of hot water that you need to boil in, because that saves you money on your electricity.
But 62,000 cups in a lifetime, they've not met my mother.
Well, she's 162.
Honestly, it's every opportunity.
Is it? I think that's nice.
Exactly.
If I'm left to my own devices, I'd have a good 3 cups a day.
Yeah.
Oh,
of tea
per hour?
In the morning, I'd have maybe 5 cups of coffee.
Do you get jittery?
Yes.
Do you? See, I know. No, I'm at the point. No, never. See, I'm trying to do my 1 meal a day OMAD. Yeah. So I have coffees all the time, you know, and I don't get jittery. I don't think.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Very good afternoon to you and a happy Friday. It's 3 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting for you live across the UK all the way through until 6 p.m. Here's what's happening on today's action-packed show. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been accused of misleading the public by cooking up a £20 billion black hole that many people are saying simply didn't exist. The OBR claimed it told the Chancellor 5 weeks ago that the deficit was only £2.5 billion, and on Halloween there was actually a surplus of £4 billion. Here's the question. Did Rachel Reeves massage the numbers so she could tax Brits £30 billion to fund a benefits giveaway to please Labour MPs and to please Labour voters? And the first major poll since the budget has landed today, and it's carnage for the Labour Party. Keir Starmer would lose his seat to the Greens, and his embattled Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, would lose to Reform, with all but one of the 21-strong cabinet being wiped out. Is this Labour government on borrowed time? And the French government has finally promised to push dinghies back to their beaches in a major clampdown on the small boats crisis. But with £700 million sent France's way since 2018 and 190,000 illegals coming our way since then, is this yet more empty French promises? And satellites could be used to spy on luxury homes, and the Labour's new council tax surcharge helping identify properties worth over £2 million. Is this, however, Sir Keir Starmer's surveillance in full effect? Is it Starmer's eyes in the sky? And Donald Trump has sensationally halted immigration from all third world countries after an Afghan immigrant shot 2 National Guards, killing 1. Should Britain follow suit? And if so, which nations might we ban from Britain? And it's Black Friday, which is the biggest shopping day of the year. A £10 billion spending spree is on the way, the perfect time to bag yourself a bargain and to dodge all the duds. And that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. I'd like to start today's show with a tribute, if I could, to a dear friend of mine of the show, Peter Whittle. Sadly and tragically has passed away far too young. Regular GB News viewers will remember Peter's erudite and fantastic contribution to the show, the founder, the director of the New Culture Forum, a political tour de force, one of the sharpest brains I've ever met, erudite, charming, debonair, a true patriot. He'll be missed by colleagues, missed by friends, and missed, dare I say, by his country. Peter Whittle, tremendous human being. May you rest in peace. Now, with no further ado, get in touch the usual way. Get in touch, gbnews.com/you'll say is the way to do so. We've got a real action-packed show today, but first, as your headlines, here's Sophia Wenser.
Martin, thank you. Good afternoon. It's just gone 3 o'clock. These are your headlines. The Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves' budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to the stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffiths spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Meanwhile, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says a decision to abandon day one workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important day one protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
Elsewhere, the US is poised to recognise Russia's control over Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian territories to secure a deal to end the war, according to the Telegraph newspaper. It's understood that Donald Trump has sent his peace envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to make the direct offer to Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The plan to recognise territory, which breaks the US diplomatic convention, is likely to go ahead despite concerns among Ukraine's European allies. Elsewhere, 2 teenagers who were accused of attempting to rape a schoolgirl in County Antrim in an incident which led to sustained racially motivated rioting in Northern Ireland in June are to have the charges withdrawn. The boys, aged 14 and 15, were accused of attempting to rape the girl on the 7th of June. In a previous court hearing, there were claims she was dragged down an alleyway into a garage, but escaped when her would-be attackers were disturbed and ran off. However, the Public Prosecution Service was granted permission to end criminal proceedings against the pair due to significant evidential developments at the court. The teenagers will now be released from the Juvenile Detention Centre, where they have been held for more than 5 months. Now, some breaking news. The person suspected of being the 4th member of the main Louvre robbery gang has now been charged. We will bring you more on that story as we get it. Now, French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. It comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. And Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote in a Truth Social post that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. He did not provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3228 and €1.1423. The price of gold is £3,181 and 64 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 9,715 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thank you, Sophia. We'll have a cracker of a show. Let's get weaving. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been accused today of misleading the public by allegedly cooking up the £20 billion black hole that simply did not exist. Well, the official forecasters chair, the OBR, said the Chancellor knew about the revised predictions well before her budget. And Number 10 have dismissed these claims, but this is another huge potential political scandal for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, and Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. I'm joined in the studio now by GBNews' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, newly promoted. Mark Wine, you're here too. Well done, Catherine Forster. Richly deserved.
Thank you.
Good news for you. Could be a potential nightmare for Rachel Reeves. Quite simply, 9 million Brits have been dragged into higher taxes because we were told we're all in this together, time after time after time. There must be tribes in the Amazonian rainforest who knew we had a £20 billion black hole, except it looks like we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't have one at all because basically on the 17th of September, we've now got exactly what information the Office for Budget Responsibility gave to the Treasury and when. On the 17th of September, the OBR told the Treasury and the Chancellor that even though there was a £16 billion downgrade because of productivity not being so good and all the rest of it, the tax rises were going to pretty much offset that. Stonking tax receipts, I think is how the IFS put it. So there was only going to be a little bit of money missing. By the 31st of October, even that had turned positive and they actually had a £4.2 billion surplus. But then, just 5 days later, on November the 4th, the Chancellor gave a press conference first thing in the morning, very unusual, and talked about the productivity downgrade, the need for difficult choices, heavily implied that income tax was going to go up. Then it turned out it wasn't, and we were told that the facts had changed. But now it turns out that the Treasury had known for a long time that not only did this black hole not exist, but they were actually sitting on £4.2 billion. So the government has made choices. I flagged this yesterday because I was in the Institute for Fiscal Studies briefing where they said there was no fiscal repair job to do. And I said, there was no fiscal repair job and you've made these choices to put up welfare and whatever. And they said, well, we have made choices because we wanted more fiscal headroom, etc., etc. But make no mistake, the government has chosen to freeze these tax thresholds. Sure, to fund a headroom, but also to fund large amounts of welfare spending.
Let's cut to the chase here. If there wasn't a £20 billion black hole, and instead we've got a £4 billion surplus, that's quite a swing. And we don't know, but if the Chancellor knew that, did she sell the country the illusion of the £20 billion black hole on the basis that we all had to bend over and get these tax rises? So that could fund a nice benefits bonanza, not only for her own Labour voters, but to satiate and silence a backbench Labour MP rebellion. Who knew what? When did they know it? And I put it to you, how far could this go? And if the Chancellor did know, I'm not saying she did, if she did, is this a resigning matter?
Well, I think it could be, but important to say we do not know exactly who knew what and when. But certainly the OBR have sent this evidence. It's there in black and white. And worth saying, the reason we now have this is because Meg Hillier, who is chair of the Treasury Select Committee, had asked for all the information to be put out there in the public so they could clear up exactly what has gone on. Somebody in the Treasury has made a decision to run with this productivity downgrade line and not tell the public that actually tax receipts are much better. So I would say that we have been misled. And of course, many people will think that the government misled us before the last election when they said there'd be no need for big tax rises because all the money would come from growth.
We're waiting with bated breath, and certainly the Labour Party are, for the first post-budget polling. How bad could it get over the weekend? Probably that would land on Sunday, but we have got an early flash of the Garter. A poll was done on budget day itself. Let's get that up. It's a bloodbath. It's a total bloodbath for the Labour Party already. They're relegated into fourth position on 15% of the vote. And I put that through the Electoral Commission. Get some of that data on screen if we can. I put it through the electoral calculus machine. It precipitates the Labour Party on just 37 seats. And that's a decimation of 375 down. Reform would form a majority government, putting on 344. Conservatives doing slightly better. There's been a slight Kemi bump, but still down to 68 seats. And here's the other thing. I've been doing this a few times now. This is the third on the trot. There'll be a wipeout of the entire Labour Party cabinet. If we can try and get that up, Sir Keir Starmer will be the first sitting Prime Minister in history to lose his seat to the Greens. David Lammy, his deputy, losing to the Greens. Chancellor Rachel Reeves losing to Reform. Yvette Cooper, Reform. Shabana Mahmood, Jeremy Corbyn, Pat McFadden, Reform. I could go on and on and on. Only one of the entire cabinet keeping their seat, and that is Peter Kyle. He will hold very narrowly against the Greens. Catherine Forster. This is desperate times for the Labour Party, and I think on Sunday it's probably going to get worse.
Well, it does take a few days, doesn't it, for people to sort of fully realise what the budget means for them. And the government are very keen to say money off your energy bills, frozen prescriptions, frozen rail fares, all these little sweeteners. But the fact of the matter is that in terms of growth in disposable income, how much money we've got, it's pretty much flat for the next few years. And we've had, since the financial crisis, really almost no change in living standards. And that's the cause of so many of our problems. The fact that people are fed up, the fact that public services feel on their knees that things are not working because we haven't had the growth. People are not feeling better off. The government has got to make people feel better off to have any chance. They've said they will defy the predictions. They better hope that they can. I mean, we'd better hope that they can. Otherwise, we're going to have another bleak few years.
OK, Catherine Forster, our newly minted chief political correspondent. Thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to our next story. Some great news coming. Detect my cynicism. French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. That comes as the French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 regions responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from, of course, which thousands of migrants head off to England every single month. And let's get some more reaction. I'm joined in the studio, I'm delighted to say, by Homeland Security Editor Mark White. Mark, you can detect probably my cynicism, and I'll be blunt, I don't believe them. Or at least I won't believe them until I see it. And there's 700 million reasons why I don't believe them. That's the amount of money we've given to the French since 2018. And in return, we've had 190,500 illegals come over. Why should we believe the French on this latest plot?
Well, I think you're right to be cautious on this, because it was back in April when Sir Keir Starmer first announced this very important change of policy that would allow the French maritime police to intervene, to push these small boats back onto the French beaches. But month after month after month passed, and there was no sign of this tactic being implemented. We kept saying to the British government, where is this new tactic? They said it was still there. There was operational training that was taking place. There was the sign-off from a number of regional prefectures, and also, of course, the French cabinet had to sign off on this as well. But we continued month after month and nothing has happened. Now Le Monde has a hold of this documentation, which does appear to show that those 4 prefectures along the coast, on the beaches where the most of these migrant launches take place, have signed off on this, which it seems paves the way for the next time we have a quiet spell of weather. It's been pretty awful in the Channel for weeks now, but when we get the winds calming down, and our producer down in Kent tells us that could be as early as Wednesday of next week. We'll get launches from the beaches, and then the proof of the pudding. I'll be across in France taking a look for myself to see whether the French are true to their word and they are going to push back these small boats.
Because we've been told this would happen before. We were told that the French gendarmes could go into the water and slash boats. And then we heard they can't do that. in case anybody gets hurt, in case there's an incident. We've heard so many times they're going to push the boats back and the lawyers leap in. And I just think now people won't believe any of this until they see it with their own eyes. They don't believe their ears anymore. They'll only believe their eyes. And if we keep seeing the French Navy escorting dinghies to the mid-channel, if we keep seeing Border Force, the RNLI, shipping them ashore like a taxi service, I think the public just won't believe anything they say until they physically see it.
You're right to highlight that tactic when it comes to slashing the boats. We were told this was a game changer as well. The French would be more robust. They would be going up to these boats, puncturing them so they couldn't get to sea in the first place. But of course, what happened was you had a unit of about half a dozen police officers. We come up against 100 mainly young men determined to get to the UK, and any intervention by the police was met with anger and violence, and police officers were being injured. So they very quickly stopped doing that tactic unless they could very easily get to a boat, puncture it and retreat before coming to any harm. So that happens very, very infrequently now. And there is no doubt in my mind that any move to implement this maritime pushback policy will also be met with robust defence by the migrants, because they will be determined to try to push beyond the French maritime rigid inflatables and get into the open sea to get to the UK. So you can imagine that there will be some pretty violent scenes unfolding in shallow water there. So let's see how that policy stacks up against the reality on the ground or in that shallow water.
OK, well, like I say, I'll believe it when I see it. Mark White, thank you very much. Always an absolute pleasure. Now, there's only a few weeks left until Christmas, and time is running out for you to enjoy it all on us. You could be our big festive winner, and here's how.
There's just 27 days until Christmas, and it's the final day to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, coming up next, Donald Trump has sensationally halted immigration from all third world countries. Should Britain follow suit? That's next. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation,
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
and each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
3, got some breaking news for you here, and it's this. In the last couple of moments, Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff, that's Yermak, he says has resigned. That's Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff, Yermak says has resigned. Now, this could be in relation to the fact that Donald Trump is allegedly handing the occupied territories in Ukraine over to Vladimir Putin. So Zelensky's chief of staff, Yermak, says he's resigned, we learned here on GB News in these past few moments. More on that as we get more details later in the show. But for now, moving on. President Donald Trump has said he'll permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C. One of them, of course, was tragically killed. Now, this comes as US diplomats have been told to collect data on crimes committed by migrants, saying British voters have also been let down on immigration by Conservative and Labour politicians alike. Well, let's now speak with my guest, and that's Federico de Jesus, who's a Democrat strategist and a former spokesperson for Barack Obama. Welcome to the show. It's been way too long, Federico. Pleasure to have your company. What's your reaction to Donald Trump's clampdown on immigration from all third world countries?
Thank you, Martin. Well, my reaction to that is that that's a temporary, quote-unquote, solution that doesn't solve the underlying problem, which is that you cannot stop all migration from any country to the most powerful country in the world that has intervened in so many countries. And that refugee in particular that allegedly shot the 2 National Guards people was legally in the United States. And there had been a background check on that person. And so it is impossible to avoid all tragedies. And so I'm for comprehensive immigration reform where you stop the bad guys and let in the people that will help your economy. But the more troubling news is that the U.S. is intervening in other countries' domestic policies. That's not the role that the United States should play. It should be the U.K. that sets their own immigration policies. And so as any other country, right? The only business the U.S. has to tell other countries is what to do when they come into the United States, not the other way around. So I think that the special relationship is based on mutual respect, and it's disrespectful to tell the UK government what they're doing with their own voters and their own domestic policies.
Or you could also argue that perhaps if it hadn't been for the intervention of somebody like Elon Musk into our rape gang scandal, it would have been brushed under the carpet by our political establishment. You could also argue that J.D. Vance speaking out on free speech made it come to a head, and so it's been talked about more. But back to American domestic politics, if I could, Federico. The background checks of all of those from these countries, the green cards from 19 other countries, will all be checked. And Donald Trump has said if anybody has been found to be indulging in anti-American behaviour, they'll be deported. There must be a lot of people out there who are temporary guests in America living in fear. Again, is that the kind of thing you think a president should do?
Well, the thing is, how do you define I'm so sorry. How do you define anti-American behavior? The U.S. State Department has been canceling visas for social media posts about Israel, which, as far as I know, is not an American territory. It's a sovereign nation, right? So there are free speech concerns. The United States Constitution applies to all who are in this country, whether they're legal immigrant or not. And that sets a troubling precedent where you see the freedoms that the United States extols, but it's not practicing its own backyard. So again, if somebody is committing a crime, if somebody is actively working against the United States to overthrow its government or to commit crimes against Americans, that person should not be in the United States. And so that should be the policy. It shouldn't be whether your social media posts are against Israel or against, frankly, the United States. That's what freedom of speech is. And that's why the United States became the beacon of hope for people from all over the world to come to study in the United States and make freedom a reality and not just a piece of paper.
Federico, on Truth Social, Donald Trump posted, only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Of course, the famed remigration, the mass deportation of people that the president believes are not conducive to harmony within America. It's gone down very, very well, has to be said, with his MAGA base, with the Republican voting bloc. What's the broader reaction to this been across, how can I put it, the more liberal parts of America? I mean, you can't argue for people who wish you harm to stay in your country, surely.
Of course not. Again, any criminal, whether legal or not, should be deported. Any immigrant that does anything to harm Americans or other people in the United States should be deported. I don't think there's an argument over that. And I think that one of the reasons that his sound bites in the campaign were popular were because they were saying that they would get rid of the worst of the worst, the rapists, the drug smugglers. But in practice, these mass deportation policies have made Americans, legal immigrants, endure harassment, civil rights violations, and they have detained Americans because of the color of their skin or the language that they speak in the street. That wasn't getting rid of the worst of the worst. When they get rid of hard workers, nannies, people in construction, or just students that weren't harming anyone, and even Americans, again, that are being stopped, harassed, and beaten up by ICE and detained without any court order, that concerns not just civil libertarians, but middle America that said, well, wait a minute, I thought we were getting rid of criminals, not my neighbors, and not even Americans who are, again, of any other skin color or language background.
But then your neighbors can also be criminals. Your neighbours can also be anti-American, and the whole point, people. My reaction, I've been speaking to Americans, is this high-profile, tough clampdown. It is making a lot of people feel safer.
Well, Donald Trump's approval rating is at 37%, and his immigration policies have actually gone down in support. Yes, there's still a lot of support for what he's doing, but again, a lot of Republicans, a lot of MAGA voters, and even Democrats that voted for Trump thought they were voting to get rid of the worst, the criminals, the rapists, the drug smugglers, not hardworking people, some of them who are here legally, and definitely not people who are American just because they're of a different ethnic background. That's not what the law or the policy that he promised was, and that's what in practice ICE is doing. They're breaking people's windows, they're asking people for their documentation. That's what the United States fought for in Europe, and that's not what we want here in the United States.
Okay, thanks for your time. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Federico de Jesus, who's a Democrat strategist and a former spokesperson for Barack Obama. Thank you for joining us today on GB News. I appreciate your time.
A pleasure.
There's lots more still to come between now and 4 p.m, including it's Black Friday. Of course, that's a £10 billion shopping day, the biggest shopping day, in fact, of the year. It's the perfect time to bag yourself a bargain and to dodge those duds, and we'll help you to do that. But first, here's your latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Men in the UK. A committee advising the government has said it's understood Health Secretary Wes Streeting is examining evidence. Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after an anti-corruption investigation. The Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the nation. Because the truth matters, and so do you.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A90 southbound near Forfar faces disruptions due to a broken down vehicle. Traffic on the M4 eastbound is affected between junctions 24 Coldra and 23 Rogier after an earlier accident. A collision on the M6 southbound between junctions 13 and 12 in Staffordshire causes lane closures. The M1 southbound exit slip at junction 5 in Hertfordshire has delays with one lane closed. The M25 anti-clockwise in Kent reports congestion between junctions 3 and 2 with 15-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast reports disruptions between Coventry and Rugby. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 3:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, you might have noticed it's Black Friday. It's the biggest shopping day of the year. £10 billion day, in fact. Perfect day to bag yourself a bargain. But don't get into those duds. How to avoid them and get the bargains. I'm joined in the studio by the deals expert and the founder of Joy and Dig, Ashley Bailey. Ashley, I've got to say, I'm a sucker for a bargain. Got myself a doorbell today, 2/3 off. I'm already in a good mood.
Happy days.
Is it all just one big rip-off, or are they just reheating old offerings for us?
So look, you can find a deal. I think you need to be very specific. So what happens is basically retailers will sell old stock, getting ready for new stock to come in January. So I think if you're specific, like you said, you're looking for a doorbell or something else, go in, you can find a good deal. My advice would be check marketplaces.
Yeah.
Vinted, Gumtree, eBay, Back Market. They also sell new. So there's definitely more opportunities to look at marketplaces and retailers together to find the better deal.
Is that what you do at Joy and Dig? There's a search engine that we can search it in. And it's so you don't just go to the big online retailers and assume it's the best price.
Exactly. Because the big online retailers will buy the big space on Google, the sponsored results. What Joy and Dig does, we put marketplaces and retailers together, AI-based. We quickly search the best deal for what you're looking for and serve it up in seconds. So saving you time. Yeah.
I got some cat food at 25% off today. Now, that's how exciting my life is.
Is that where the smile's back? Yeah.
But there are some good bargains out there. But I'm very suspicious that I'm just getting offered something. You know, like the old DFS sofa sales.
Yes.
Basically, it's been on sale all year, but they suddenly
Still
say,
haven't got rid of it.
And people fall for it, and they can get themselves into debt. Am I being cynical?
No, look, I think my tip would be go in looking for something specific. Go in if you're looking for the doorbell or you're looking for a pair of trainers, then go in with that. Don't go in and go, I need to buy something. Go in with specifics and you'll come out with a good deal. If you go in looking for a deal for anything, you will spend money, too much money.
And the problem is, of course, with Christmas coming around the corner, people are going to go chucking their money all over the shop. Have we seen any downturn this year because people are quite nervous about the budget that came in this week? Might Black Friday be a little bit muted this year?
So it has been muted so far. So the budget has delayed a lot of spending.
Yeah.
So what you will see is, so Cyber Monday starts obviously Monday. What you'll see is that deals will extend. And then what you'll find is Christmas, kind of 20th, 21st, more sales will start pre-Christmas. Obviously the tricky bit for parents is it might not get delivered in time, so that would be post-Christmas. But I think things will extend over the next
Black Friday now seems to go on forever. So are you saying, actually, if you're canny, you might hold back a bit? You don't need to steam in today?
Yes, that would be my suggestion. Yeah, it's going to last for a couple of days. You've got Cyber Monday, and next week will happen. So I would, if you're looking for a good deal, just hold, wait, and see what happens. But again, look for marketplaces and retailers. You can certainly find a best deal.
Are there any specific bargains out there that are really leaping out at you this year?
Yes, so for my big one would be a Dyson Supersonic.
Yeah.
So a hairdryer, I've seen it on kind of retail about $189. We found it on our site, Join Dig, at £100, so £8 to £9. So electronics is very big for Black Friday and over this period. So if you are looking, Join Dig or marketplaces, there's definitely deals out there.
And that's new, that's boxed, it's got the guarantee, it's totally kosher?
Absolutely. So
sweet.
Marketplaces sell new and pre-loved. So you can buy new with tags, new without tags. So it's down to the consumer. But there's definitely great deals to be had.
I need to get some hair straightens for the missus. Can you sort me out?
I'll try.
All right, let's have a little chat afterwards. Thank you very much, Ashley Bailey. Superb to have you in the studio. That's the founder, the deals expert of Join Dig. Check him out, Ashley Bailey. Thank you very much indeed. If you search some holidays on this year, here's a forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, elsewhere mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The new guidelines instruct visa officers to reject applicants who may be eligible for public benefits as part of the president's hardline crackdown on immigration, all to prevent people becoming dependent on those public benefits and draining the US resources.
So with an increasing obesity problem in the UK, should the UK follow Trump and ban visas for fat people?
Well, joining us now is the body positivity influencer and actor George Keywood and the former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller. Steve, I think I might know what you think about this one. Let's kick off with you.
Well, I think this is great. I think this is Trump using common sense. This is Trump putting his country first. And wouldn't that be a breath of fresh air if we had it in the UK? Of course, by encouraging people that are too fat and have already got medical conditions, serious medical conditions, coming into your country, what I'm saying is, it is a common sense factor, because the likelihood is that they're going to cost your country a lot of money. And let's face it, the taxpayer is already under stress. The NHS is knackered. And do you know how much it costs per year to look after someone with diabetes? It costs up to £3,000 a year. So no, we're bust. We can't afford it. So Trump's policy is something absolutely we should adopt. It's common sense, and I think most British people would agree.
George Keywood, what do you think? Is he being unfair?
Well, I'm British and I completely disagree. It's absolute nonsense, isn't it? Let's be honest. I mean, Jesus Christ. Are we getting to the point where we're saying that fat people can't go in a country? I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous. And it's something that I expect for somebody like that to say.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 3:44. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on this Friday afternoon here on GB News. Now, the Armed Forces Minister, Al Carnes, he's officially named a refuge suite for injured veterans, Everest, in honour, of course, of his record-breaking climb to the world's highest peak. Al Carnes, who served 24 years in the Royal Marines, and 3 former Special Forces colleagues, they scaled Everest in May, as you can see on your screens there now. Now, the 4 are still raising funds for Fisher House in Birmingham. And I'm delighted now to say I can join Al Carnes and also Ella Frampton, whose father, David, was a former Fisher House resident. Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to see you, and it's a magnificent venture that you're supporting here, Mr. Carnes. Let's start with you, if we could, Al Carnes. Tell us all about what you're doing. Tell us about the new Everest room at Fisher House. But mainly, tell us about the magnificent work that's carried out there at Fisher House.
Yeah, I mean, this is an amazing facility. What we have here is a house that's been built right next to the hospital. So if any injured armed forces personnel go into the hospital, their families can come and be with them and help them to recovery. It's really, I mean, it's taking over 9,000 people come through Fisher House. And indeed, at the moment, well, lots of people think there isn't armed conflict taking place. It's actually almost full with people and individuals in armed forces that are in the hospital. So it's a fantastic charity. It's doing amazing work. And Ella can testify that it is a fantastic organisation for supporting families, healing through very, very difficult times.
Let's get on to you now, Ella Frampton, if we could. Of course, your father, a military veteran, thanks for his service on behalf of myself and all of GB News viewers. But you came to need to use a suite there at Fisher House. First of all, tell us about your father, about his service and how wonderful he was.
So he served for 23 years, but he was just one of a kind, really. He was larger than life. Always the loudest person in the room. And that's him in that photo there of him serving.
I mean, here's a guy who served his country, done multiple tours, and then found himself in difficult times, was put into hospital, and Fisher House looked after Ella and the family to make sure they could be together. And it's a fantastic organisation that really provides that wraparound care for families going through really difficult times when they serve in the armed forces.
Ella, just seeing that photograph there, thank you, Al, for holding that up. Regular viewers will know I always get very, very emotional when I see veterans and the amazing work they've done and how they've passed on now. Ella, tell us about how useful and how vital it was to have Fisher House when your father, David, needed it during difficult times.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without him, I believe that. And the support we had from the second home that they gave to Dad throughout his journey, the support, the family from the people staying here and the workers, it just completely changed his experience. And it just made it that bit easier for him. You know, he was going through a really difficult time with his treatment. So it was nice for him to stay here whilst he was having it and have people around him to support him, not be alone, sort of be able to escape the reality of it, you know, talking to people in the house with their different situations, with similar backgrounds. So it really completely changed everything for Dad and for me. It was a really big support.
And Ella, it must have been a huge help to you, not just yourself, but to your wider family as well, because it's tremendously difficult and demanding when you're faced with, you know, your father passed away of cancer. It gave you an opportunity to know he's in safe hands, and then you could go home and process yourself. So everyone's a winner, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I used to know he'd be, you know, safe here, and I wouldn't have to worry as much as I normally would when he was at home, and he'd be taking care of himself and keeping everyone busy here, really.
And it's just amazing just to hear you speaking so positively about what clearly must have been a terrible, terrible circumstance, of course, for any parent. Al Carnes, you've already raised a bunch of money climbing Everest, and you want to carry on that effort and endeavour now. You boys are trying to raise money in the wider community to get Fisher House some more dosh. Tell us about that and how can people help?
Yeah, so we climbed Everest 6.5 days. We raised about £500,000. That will go across a whole suite of veterans charities. We've named the room here after that, the Everest room. It'll give people a little bit of hope that, you know, if you get together, you can achieve anything, especially through difficult times. What I would say to all the viewers out there is that if they want to put money into a charity, Fisher House is a fantastic place of where your money will go a long way, not just to supporting armed forces individuals, but supporting the whole family, like Ella and others that have, you know, really difficult times. And the least we can do is provide them a safe, warm, comfortable family home while they're going through that quite emotional period. So, you know, great charity to put some resource into, and we're going to continue to raise money all the way up until the end of the year, and try and make that money go as far as we can to support the armed forces community.
Ella, can I ask you what your father used to say about Fisher House himself? You know, how much it meant to him before he passed?
He used to love coming here. It was like a holiday for him. He used to take photos of the room that he was staying in and everything and post it all over Facebook as if he was on holiday for the week. He honestly loved it, and he loved everyone here.
And I can imagine, me and Ella were talking earlier, I can imagine the banter in here, because there's a lot of other military families, and I think Ella's still in touch with some of the other families that were here at the time.
Yeah.
The banter will have just been like being in the military, and there's nothing better, you know, when you're going through those difficult times, to have your friends, family, and like-minded people around you.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, could I ask you, Al Carnes, it's magnificent to see that this venture, Fisher House, but of course the veterans community in general, you know, needs wider support. Are you confident the government is doing enough to help the broader veterans community right now?
Yeah, so I think we've got to keep pushing. You know, we pushed 50 million into the Valour programme, which is the first time government's put money into really providing a more coherent veterans space. We're thickening out the Office for Veterans Affairs. We've just launched our veterans strategy. We've got a good mental health care plan running, good op restore, which is about physical and musculoskeletal. But we've got to do more, and we've got to continue to do more to make sure that anyone that serves, if they have issues post-service, mental or physical, or housing, that we get after it and we support them. And I'm really confident that we've done it. And I actually had a bit of a moment, you know, I left the military 1.5 years ago and sat down a couple of months ago and said, was it worth it? Have we delivered change? And when I reflect on the last year, I think we've delivered a lot of change, but there's much more to do, and we've got to keep pushing.
Would you mind, again, just holding that picture up for us? I just want to see that picture again of David. It's just so wonderful. Ella, just tell us, just quickly, if you could, tell us how special your dad was. I'm just... Go on.
I can't even put into words how special he was. He was just the most amazing man you could ever know and meet, and I feel privileged to be able to call him my dad.
And can I just say, he'd be looking down in real pride in Ella at the moment, because the way she's taken this on is as brave and courageous as I've ever seen in the armed forces. So I can guarantee, looking down, super proud of you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think there'll be a dry in the house. We have to leave it at that. Alcons, thank you very much. Ella Frampton, thank you. And again, thanks for the service there, David Frampton. Thank you very, very much indeed to you both, and wish you the very best with this venture. Tremendous. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, it's so nice, isn't it, just to like sort of see someone having the opportunity. I get so soft about the veteran stories. It's so important that veterans are supported. Just so wonderful to know they can go somewhere like that. Fisher House, that's at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. The room has been named the Everest Room, giving people like Ella Frampton the chance to come to terms with what's about to happen to them. You know, a lot of these lads, you know, war couldn't take them, bullets couldn't take them, other things did, mental health, cancers, and having somewhere special like that to help them and the family is an incredible thing. Now, moving on, we've got some views. No, we're having the full reaction now. Was the £20 billion black hole a fake all along after all, despite the fact you've had to fork out £30 billion worth of taxes? That's next here on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, frost in places, particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. In Kingston upon Hull, traffic on the A63 westbound is heavily congested after a vehicle breakdown closed one lane, causing an estimated 10-minute delay. In Leicestershire, a lane on the M1 northbound is closed due to a breakdown. In Staffordshire, a collision on the M6 southbound has led to lane closures and an hour-long delay. Additional disruptions are on the M25 anti-clockwise in Kent, with 15-minute delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Cross Country are experiencing disruptions across multiple routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Very, very good afternoon to you and a happy Friday. It's 4 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK, and I'm with you until 6 p.m. We've got a corker of a show. Here's what's coming up today. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has been accused of misleading the British public by allegedly cooking up that £20 billion black hole that simply didn't exist. Now, the OBR claimed it told the Chancellor 5 weeks ago that the deficit was only £2.5 billion, and in fact, there was then a surplus of £4.2 billion. Here's the question. Did Rachel Reeves massage the numbers so she could tax Brits £30 billion to help fund a benefits giveaway that pleased Labour MPs and Labour voters? Now, the first major poll since the budget has landed, and it's carnage for the Labour Party. Keir Starmer would lose his seat to the Greens, and Rachel Reeves would lose to Reform, with all but one of the 21-strong cabinet being wiped out. Is this Labour government on borrowed time? And the French government has finally promised to push dinghies back to their beaches and a major clampdown on the small boat crisis. But with £700 million sent France's way since 2018 and over 190,000 illegals coming our way, is this yet more empty French promises? And satellites could be used to spy on luxury homes under Labour's new council tax clampdown, helping identify properties worth over £2 million. Well, the price is facing bills of $7.5 grand every single year. But here's the question. Is this Sir Keir Starmer's eye in the sky? Is this surveillance society in full effect? And Donald Trump has sensationally halted immigration from all third world countries as an Afghan immigrant shot 2 National Guards, killing one of them dead. Should Britain follow suit? And if so, which nations might be on Britain's banned list? And it's Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year, a £14 billion day. How to bag a deal and how to dodge the duds. That's all coming up in your next hour. When is a black hole not a black hole? Answer, when it doesn't even exist. £20 billion, we were told, was needed to be filled by you, the British taxpayer. 9 million more of you have been pushed into higher taxes after those thresholds were frozen. Taxes left, right and centre on your cars, even on your milkshakes. Was it actually all an illusion? Did we not need to raise taxes to fill a black hole, but actually to fill the pockets of those on benefits and to zip the lips of Labour MPs on the back benches? Was the whole thing just an illusion? Should heads roll, how far does this rot go up Parliament? Is the Chancellor herself potentially in peril? Get in touch usual ways, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so. But now's your headlines, and here's Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you. Your top stories, it's just gone 4 o'clock.
Now we start with some breaking news. The US Department of Justice is upgrading charges for the Afghan man suspected of shooting and killing a National Guard member and wounding another to first-degree murder. It comes after the president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolfe, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman is in a serious condition. And some more breaking news. Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after an anti-corruption investigation. It's after Ukraine's anti-corruption agencies raided his apartment in Kyiv's government quarters early on Friday morning. And Yermak said on social media that, from my side, there is full cooperation. The Ukrainian leader has now also announced a reshuffle of his presidential office as a result of Andriy Yermak's departure. The US is poised to recognise Russia's control over Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian territories to secure a deal to end the war, according to The Telegraph. It's understood that Donald Trump has sent his peace envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to make the direct offer to Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The plan to recognise territory, which breaks US diplomatic convention, is likely to go ahead despite concerns among Ukraine's European allies. In other news now, the Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves' budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Meanwhile, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon Day One workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important Day One protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
Now, 2 teenagers who were accused of attempting to rape a schoolgirl in County Antrim in an incident which led to sustained racially motivated rioting in Northern Ireland in June are to have the charges withdrawn. The boys, aged 14 and 15, were accused of attempting to rape the girl on the 7th of June. In a previous court hearing, there were claims she was dragged down an alleyway into a garage, but escaped when her would-be attackers were disturbed and ran off. However, the Public Prosecution Service was granted permission to end criminal proceedings against the pair due to significant evidential developments at Belfast Youth Court today. The teenagers will now be released from the Juvenile Detention Centre, where they've been held for more than 5 months. And prostate cancer screening should not be made routinely available for the vast majority of men in the UK, a committee advising the government has said. It's understood Health Secretary Wes Streeting is examining the evidence. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3220 and 1.1414 euros. The price of gold is £3,174 and 20 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 9,726 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Thanks, Sophia. Could there be another scandal brewing in the heart of Parliament? Because the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, she's been accused of misleading the British public by allegedly cooking up a £20 billion black hole that simply didn't exist. Now, the official forecasters chair, the OBR, said the Chancellor knew about revised predictions well before her budget, but Number 10 have completely dismissed these claims. What's the truth? Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, this potentially could be a huge scandal. The situation is complicated. We were repeatedly told time after time after time, there's a £20 billion black hole that needs filling. That's why British taxpayers need to take the pain. 9 million dragged into higher tax brackets, 30 billions of tax rises in the budget this Wednesday. Now it turns out the black hole might not even have existed at all. Tell us all about it.
Yes, so in fact, the black hole didn't exist. It is quite extraordinary. So what's happened is that the Treasury Select Committee wrote to the Office for Budget Responsibility and said, we want the information about who you told what when, basically. And the OBR have sent through what they told the Treasury. So on the 17th of September, they told the Treasury that even though there was this £16 billion downgrade in what they'd have available because of productivity not being so good and all the rest of it, that would be largely offset by what the IFS called stonking tax receipts much higher than they expected. And then by the 31st of October, they told the Treasury that actually they would have a net positive of 4.2 billion. So they were 4.2 billion up at that point. And yet, on November the 4th, the Chancellor took the extraordinary step of holding a press conference early in the morning, speaking to the nation, talking about these productivity downgrades, very difficult choices, priming us, we thought at the time, for raising income tax. They didn't do that. A week or so later, we were told that the facts had changed, but the facts had not changed. And Paul Johnson, who used to head the Institute for Fiscal Studies, has said that he thinks that probably Reeves misled. I think the press conference was probably misleading. He goes on to say it was designed to confirm a narrative that there was a fiscal black hole that needed to be filled with significant tax rises. In fact, as she knew at the time, no such hole existed. Now, apparently, the Treasury is saying this afternoon that basically they'd already decided that they needed this £20 billion buffer, the headroom, because they didn't have enough last time. So although there wasn't really a black hole, there sort of effectively was a black hole, but that is not what we were told.
It really is an incredible story. Who knew what? When did they know it? And is there a case here, if the Chancellor knew, and we're not saying she did, if the Chancellor knew there wasn't a black hole and yet went on to tax us for 30 billions, the book has to stop somewhere. Heads need to roll.
I think this is potentially extremely serious at a time when people's trust in politicians is on the floor. And, yeah, we don't know the ins and outs, but they stood there and they said one thing. Now, I asked at the lobby briefing yesterday, because the Institute for Fiscal Studies had said there was no fiscal repair job, and I said, you've chosen to put up taxes on working people to fund welfare spending. And they said, we have made choices. Largely, we wanted this buffer, this 20 billion buffer, but also, look, there was a lot of spending, 3 billion on scrapping the two-child benefit cap, 5 billion because they couldn't get the welfare cuts through their backbenchers. There was a lot of welfare spending. Those were choices that the government has made, and they are taxes on working people, no matter how they want to spin them.
What a state of affairs. Thank you very much, Catherine Forster. Now, what will this mean for the future of the Labour Party? Well, a poll is out from Budget Day to give us an early glimpse of the direction of travel. It was conducted by Find Out Now, and I'm joined by the head of research at Find Out Now. Now, there's Tyrone Sermon. Tyrone, always a pleasure to have your company. This poll, if I understand, was conducted on Budget Day, the 26th itself. So we might get more of a flavour perhaps on Sunday about when reality bites and people really get their teeth around what the tax rises mean for them. But it's still a disastrous poll for the Labour Party. They are pushed into 4th position in your poll on 15%. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So it's worth saying that the fieldwork there was conducted entirely after the budget on Budget Day, just within a couple of hours. And I think the interesting thing to note is that the Labour Party are in 4th place. That's a record low for a governing party. And we really shouldn't lose sight of that. But this was also true a month ago. I just think it's fascinating that so much of the anticipation and response to the budget was already priced in by the public. So although there was a lot of anticipation, by the time the budget came, people's views haven't really changed. Labour is still doing as badly as they were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
And we're seeing there Labour on 15%, Reform on 31%, the Conservatives having a 1-point bump upwards to 18%, the Greens still 3rd on 17%. And when you shake this down to work out the parliamentary seats, I put this through the electoral calculus machine just to see what that will give us. I think we can get those numbers up on screen now, and we can see the map of Britain showing again, more grim reading for the Labour Party. They're down, in my prediction, to 37 seats, Tyrone. This is a consistent pattern now. You can say, it's only one poll, but we are seeing momentum. We're seeing trends, and the direction of travel for the Labour Party, Tyrone, it's disastrous.
Yeah, I think because we run these polls week and week, we become almost desensitized to how historic this is. Like, there's been some tracker polling done by some other companies, such as Ipsos, showing that, Rachel Reeves as Chancellor is the least popular Chancellor since they started running polling in the 1970s. Keir Starmer is the least popular Prime Minister since they started running polling in the 70s. So although we've got used to these very bad polls for Labour, we have to really appreciate this is absolutely terrible. But I feel like probably until next May, when we have a series of elections which confirm that the polls are right, probably it won't sink in fully amongst either the public or politicians or the media.
Now, Tyrone, I also ran this through the machine to find out what it meant for the individual parliamentarians. I do it every week now, and I've got that old familiar feeling of a Labour Party cabinet wipeout. Let's get that on the screens right now. You can see here Sir Keir Starmer would lose his seat to the Green Party, the first sitting Prime Minister in history to lose his seat. David Lammy likewise meeting the same fate, down to the Greens. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, going down to Reform. Same with Yvette Cooper, Shabana Mahmood losing to Yvette Cooper. We can rattle through the rest of them there. The consistent pattern is this. Only one of them this time, Peter Kyle there, would avoid losing his seat, and in the past 2 polls, he lost to the Greens. This is carnage, again, Tyrone, the kind of thing we haven't seen ever in political history.
Exactly. I think one of the big movements we've seen in the last 3 months since Zach Polinsky was elected leader is that a lot of these disaffected Labour voters who didn't really have anywhere to go to now have a natural home they can vote for, and the Greens have very much been rising in the polls. And I think the one takeaway that I would invite people to reflect on is that most of the public, they don't really watch the news that often. They're not following politics all too well. So the fact that everyone kind of hyped up this budget and there's all these changes to hopefully bring these left-wing voters back, a lot of people, their decisions are made, they're probably not going to change their vote. And I think it's fair to say that the poll numbers, sure, they haven't got particularly worse since last week or the previous weeks with the budget, but the budget also would have maybe been an opportunity to bring some of these people back, and that just clearly hasn't materialised. So we'll have to wait over the coming weeks and months to see what the lasting impacts on public impressions are. But right now, Labour started in a very bad position and, well, they're still in one.
And Tyrone, thank you for clarifying for me that this polling did take place after the budget, but it still yet might get worse as the true nature of the impact on individual people's finances sinks in, and we'll see some more polls later over the weekend. Tyrone Sermon, thank you as ever for giving us your expertise on GB News. I sincerely appreciate it. Head of research there at Find Out Now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, immigration, of course, is always in the news. Yesterday, we had that big data dump. Today, there's meant to be a solution, and it's this. French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. Now, this comes as the French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 key French regions responsible for the beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands, of course, illegal immigrants head to England every single month. Well, I'm joined in the studio in Westminster by our Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, we've heard this all before. Pardonnez-moi for being cynical, but there are 700 million reasons I don't buy this. That's the amount of dosh we've sent over the channel since 2018. In return, we've had 190,500 illegal immigrants. Why will it be any different this time?
Well, we don't know that it will be, to be honest. We're just told that these prefectures along the coastline have signed this agreement to allow those police officers to go out there and to intercept these small boats if they're in shallow water, if they're in calm seas, if they're taxi boats, effectively, that have come down the river tributaries or waiting offshore to pick up other migrants. That's what we're told should happen. We'll wait and see what happens when we get the next flat calm spell, which our producer tells us maybe as early as next week if conditions allow. If that's the case, I'll be over in France trying to take a look for myself, Martin, to see whether the French are true to their promise that they're going to push back these boats. They haven't done this since it was first announced by Sir Keir Starmer back in April. 8 months later, it may finally come.
Well, we see these absurd pictures on our screens, grotesque pictures. You know, these illegal immigrants clambering aboard these dinghies on a busy day, left, right and centre. Look at the gendarmes barely getting above a waddle in their pace. We've heard so many times before they're going to get in the water, slash the dinghies, and the next thing they turn around and say, well, we can't do that in case somebody gets hurt, in case lawyers come after us. Mark, you can probably taste my cynicism. I don't think people are going to believe this until they physically see something actually happening.
Yeah, and because, as we saw there from the pictures of the French police wandering along the beach there are only ever groups of maybe half a dozen officers that respond to a migrant boat about to launch. They're up against 100 young men determined to get to the UK. And when they do try to intervene, it will often turn violent. And exactly the same is going to happen in the operation to push back these boats to the shore. These young men on those migrant boats will be determined to push their way beyond the maritime gendarmerie boats to get out into the open channel. It was interesting, it's Le Monde, which is obviously a reputable publication in France that's reporting this. They're also reporting on a letter from Sir Keir Starmer pleading with Emmanuel Macron to get this policy enacted and admitting that there is no deterrent in the Channel, which is something the Conservatives have now picked up on and are saying, here is the Prime Minister himself, who all of the while has been talking about smash the gangs, the returns policy, actually candidly admitting to Emmanuel Macron that there is no policy of deterrent beyond what might be a pushback policy if the French can finally get it off the ground.
Well, call me cynic, but I detect another French farce. And when you go over next week, Mark White, perhaps come back to Britain in a dinghy. You'll get free board, free lodgings, you'll be front of the queue in the NHS waiting list. Mark White, you get the VIP treatment.
Well, hopefully it'll be a 4-star hotel. I've seen the Bell Hotel. It's a bit of a dump. We don't want to be put there.
Oh, Mark White, you've got to laugh, otherwise you cry. Thank you very much for joining us here today in Westminster. Now, moving on, Donald Trump has promised to permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C., with one, of course, killed by an Afghan suspect. Next, I'll ask, is it time for the UK to follow suit? And if so, which countries should we ban? This is GB News with Britain's #1 news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 25+4. You're with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, President Trump has promised to permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan suspect, and one of them has tragically died. Now, the president said he would terminate millions of admissions under Joe Biden and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States. Well, 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom was shot dead in the ambush, and Donald Trump has said that the fellow Guardsman Andrew Wolf is still fighting for his life. But Donald Trump's decision begs the bigger question. Should the UK government follow suit and also pause immigration here? Well, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by the man himself, Tony Smith, who, of course, is the former Director General of UK Border Force. Tony, and always a pleasure to have your company, especially in the studio. Let's start with what's happened in America. Donald Trump clearly doesn't take any nonsense. Straight away, he said not only Afghans, but 19 other nations will be on a list, simply no entry. Donald Trump can do it there. Could that same thing be done in the United Kingdom?
Well, in a word, yes, Martin, because we've got a system where everybody other than a British or an Irish passport holder needs a permission to enter this country now. So you could withdraw those permissions, and you could do that through implementation of the visa system to say, you know, to certain cohorts of people, be they from certain countries or certain cohorts you don't want here, that we're not going to issue you with a permission to come here anymore. Now, I've never seen a blanket ban on a country like the whole of a country is automatically banned, but technically it is possible. Of course, you will get the usual outcry from others who would say, well, this is outrageous, it's not sensible, it's not proportionate. You would probably get legal challenges, but in terms of technically doing it and stopping people coming into this country, yes, it is feasible.
So it's feasible. it's possible, but it's not likely because we don't have the political will to do it. Would there be resistance at present from our friends at the ECHR? And to do anything like this, to be a Trump in Britain, will we have to be out of the ECHR to make sure we have total sovereign control?
Well, so the problem you've got isn't so much with the legal routes and stopping the visas. I think that is within our purview.
Yeah.
I think the problem is with your irregular or illegal routes, which we talk about regularly, is that anybody who, is here or is coming here or makes it here will then invoke the ECHR. And that's been our biggest problem for a very long time now, Martin, is that once that is invoked, be it A3 or A8 of the article, of the ECHR, then we are powerless to remove them. We can't, the Border Force can't remove them from the country because it goes to the courts, and the courts make decisions and the tribunals make decisions. It's out of our hands. Now, if ultimately at the end of all that, the courts and decide we can remove them, we can go and arrest them and deport them. But even then, we've still quite often got to get the permission of the country they've come from to return them there and find a route to getting them back. So leaving the ECHR is a step in the right direction, but it's going to take a hugely bold political leader to take us to that point where we simply say we're going to detain and deport pretty well everybody that we don't want to come here illegally. That's a long way off, and it does require that kind of political leadership that we're seeing in America now, and we saw with Tony Abbott, frankly, down in Australia under Operation Sovereign Borders. He was vilified in Australia, by the press, by the media, the UNHCR, the legal fraternity, but he still did it. And I think Trump is taking a similar position. He's also going to be vilified in America for a lot of things he does, but he's just going to do it anyway because, well, it's in the interest of my people. I haven't seen that kind of political leadership here yet, either from either party, in terms of we've walked sort of halfway up the hill to toughening up our borders, but we haven't really gone the whole hog. And I think it is going to require that sort of leadership to take us there if that's what we want to do.
So you're saying it's possible, it just requires the political will to do it. That could happen, I don't know, under somebody such as Nigel Farage. They'd be the mother of all political wars, legal wars, but the capability, the framework is there. It just requires the will to do it. That's one thing. In terms of the list of countries that we might draw up, we could, for example, Tony Smith, look at propensity to be a criminal. We have data already. We know that certain nations, such as the Albanians, the Algerians, even Jamaicans, are more likely to commit crime. But putting a blanket ban on those nations would be the mother of all storms. But you could create a points-based system, couldn't you? You could quite easily say, if you're from any of these countries and you've got a criminal record, no chance. And you need to be able to fund yourself to come in. They're all things you could do to make it points-based.
Yeah, you could do that. The problem we've got with criminality, Martin, I don't know if people know this, there isn't really a global watch list of criminals. We rely on Interpol. They've got red notices and green notices, but it doesn't follow that because somebody's murdered somebody in a place like Serbia or something, we're going to have that when they turn up here, particularly if they're undocumented. We've got a biometric hub now at Interpol, so we are taking faces and fingerprints and sending them, but it doesn't follow the Border Force will know that you're a criminal, know that you've got criminal intent when you arrive on a small boat. And that is the problem we've got, is that we really need more time to vet people coming into Manston. They're coming in there 1,000 a day. We've got hardly any time to properly interview them, screen them. I would certainly hold them for a very considerable amount of time to make sure they fully understand. We do all the possible checks we can do to risk assess them before we let them in.
What you could do, though, say, for example, if a foreign national committed a crime on British soil, you could say, right, immediately, you're going home, and the nation, whichever nation it is, you're not getting any more visas issued for any more of your citizens until you take your criminals back. You could do that.
Yeah, and that would be a sanction. And we have spoken about visa sanctions in other areas that countries don't take people back. We're going to stop issuing visas. You could do that for the whole country if you wanted to, but you're always going to get people on the other side who are going to, well, it's disproportionate because only a small number of these people,
Tough.
Actually most of them are not.
Take the bad guys back. Again, I put it to you, if you had a Trump-style leader, you could do this.
You could do almost anything with that kind of political leadership, and I say those would be the two examples I would hold up, as Australia and America have done it, but we're in the ECHR. We've got a Gordian knot around our borders at the moment in terms of a legislative framework that firstly disbars us from detaining and deporting, which is what we want to do. So someone needs to have the courage to break that knot.
All right, Tony Smith, as I have you here, I have to ask you about a feeling of deja vu I'm getting, pun intended, about France today promising once again to intercept dinghies at sea. You can probably detect my cynicism. Are you also cynical about this plan?
Well, Martin, how many many times have we been here talking about this over the last couple of years, or even more than that, really? You know, that we've been marched up to the top of the hill. The French are going to do this, the French are going to do that. Those announcements normally come from our own politicians, our own spads, who want to get that out there to say, look, we've made a breakthrough, and then they've really largely come to naught. Now, this one has actually come from French sources. There is evidence that there is an operational order out there, which has been approved by certain people in France on the operational side, but it could be implemented. But I'm afraid the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, won't it? We need to see this happening. We need your reporters over there filming this happening. Not so much that we want to see it. I want the smugglers to see it. I want the migrants to see it. That's the real deterrent, because the best form of all of immigration control is to stop people coming here in the first place. If we can get the French to do that, hats off. But I'm afraid right now, Martin, as things stand, I'm not entirely convinced that this is actually going to run.
Tony Smith, I think you're exactly right. It's a pleasure to have you. You're coming in the studio again, as ever, my friend. Thank you very, very much, Tony Smith. Excellent. And lots more still to come between now and 5 p.m, including, of course, it's Black Friday, the £14 billion biggest shopping day of the year. Great to bag a bargain, but also let's dodge those duds. First, though, your headlines. Here's Sophia Wenzel.
Martin, thank you. Your headlines at 4:33. The US Department of Justice is upgrading charges for the Afghan man suspected of shooting and killing a National Guard member and wounding another to first-degree murder. Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after an anti-corruption investigation. The Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Prostate cancer screening should not be made routinely available for the vast majority of men in the UK, a committee advising the government has said. It's understood Health Secretary Wes Streeting is examining evidence. And French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M74 southbound, a lane is blocked between junctions 18 and 19. In Kingston upon Hull, a broken down vehicle on the A63 westbound causes a lane closure, with normal conditions expected between 4:45 and 5. An accident on the A50 westbound in Derbyshire results in 50-minute delays. The M54 westbound at junction 2 in Staffordshire faces congestion until 6:30 tonight. In Hertfordshire, the M1 southbound exit slip at junction 5 has a lane closed due to a collision. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and Cross Country report disruptions on multiple routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's 4:38 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Let's get more reaction now to the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who's being accused of misleading the public by allegedly cooking up a £20 billion black hole that many believe simply didn't exist. Now, the official forecasters chair at the OBR said the Chancellor knew about the revised predictions well before her budget, but Number 10, of course, are completely dismissing these claims. Well, for more comments, I'm joined by the political commentator, Labour advisor Aisha Ali Khan. Aisha, pleasure to have your company on this beautiful Friday afternoon. There's a bit of a pickle going on here, isn't there? I mean, we were told repeatedly £20 billion in the red, but it actually turns out the OBR are claiming the government knew on Halloween it was £4 billion in the green. What's going on?
That's a really good question, Martin. I wish we knew. Obviously, we've had this kind of almost tit for tat now with the OBR releasing the statement, Rachel Reeves' statement early on Wednesday. Then we've had people saying one thing and then another. And we've actually seen a little bit of tension in the build up to the budget on Wednesday anyway, with lots of different, things, figures being thrown out. And obviously this claim that there was this big black hole left by the previous government. This has been consistent all the way through, by the way. As soon as Labour came into power last summer, they did they checked all the figures, and there was quite an in-depth audit that took place last year. And on the back of that, this information was revealed. And I just think it's really sad that this is happening, because this is not doing our country any favours, especially when you have a powerful body like the OBR, who basically helps set the confidence levels in our economy, really. And obviously we've seen quite a lot of shambles in the lead up, policies being announced and then withdrawn, accusations of U-turns. It's not helped at all, and this has to end. I mean, this kind of, it's almost like tit for tat now. They say one thing, Rachel Reeves says another. It's not helping any of us really at all, Martin.
Who it's really not helping, though, Aisha, is people like me and you, taxpayers. Because the whole premise of the budget is we're all in this together. You know, we're in this deep, dark black hole. We've got to make difficult choices. We know it's going to be tough, but there's only one way to do this, and that's to dig deep. But if that was built on the illusion of a £20 billion black hole, but actually the OBR are claiming we were having a surplus of £4 billion, then what was all those tax rises for? Why did we raise £30 billion of tax rises at a budget when it seems we didn't need them? Now, the allegations coming through, this was to feather the nest of Labour voters, to keep Labour MPs quiet on the backbenches, to shovel £15 billion into benefits. If the electorate has been sold a pup for reasons like that, I put it to you, trust in politics will be through the floor.
Well, obviously, politicians, they wouldn't be in their positions without the electorate voting for them. So it's really important to make sure that what the public want and the premises on which they were voted in, they're listened to. And obviously we've had this announcement, 30 billion savings over the next 3 years, by the way, Martin. And obviously people, there've been some positive news, in my opinion anyway. The two-child benefit cap has been removed. That's going to take 5,500,000 children out of poverty. There's lots of positives there, which, to be fair, a lot of people voted for. This is the premise that Labour ran. These are the manifesto that Labour ran on last year, and this is what people were expecting. And obviously, we couldn't deliver this last year, last autumn's budget. And obviously, this is something that Rachel Reeves has been working really hard to deliver on this year. Oh, I mean, look, I am not an expert, Martin. I have no idea what's going on. There's all this information that's thrown out all the time. I really want to know genuinely for myself, because I'm a taxpayer as well. I want to know what the state of the country is, what the state of the economy is, because this impacts myself, it impacts my son and other people as well going forward. And people cannot make decisions around their finances if they have no idea what's going on. So obviously, like I said, I was saying this before, there was a lot of speculation about what the budget was going to be about. And I kept on saying, let's wait until Wednesday. Let's see what the announcements are going to be, and let's dissect from there on. And now, obviously, you've got OBR mentioning one thing, Rachel Reeves is saying it's not the case. It's not helping at all. And I'd like, to be honest, I would like this infighting, because that's exactly what it is. Two institutions, two offices fighting one another.
I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure it is an infight between the OBR and the Labour Party. It seems to me that information was presented to the Labour Party, and somebody has either chosen to ignore that, or change that, or bury that, or base their budget on a completely separate set of calculations. If that's the case, and we're not saying, by the way, that Rachel Reeves knows about this, no one's making that allegation, but somebody must have read that document, somebody must have known. And if that's the case, there needs to be an urgent investigation, and surely heads must roll.
Well, absolutely. If information was presented and it wasn't acted upon, that's really, that's a big thing. That's a huge. That's a question mark, actually. If that is the case, that's a question mark not only over Rachel Reeves and the way information is presented to her, but also the people around her. Because if she's being denied the opportunity or access to information, that would actually impact her decision making when it comes to the budget, which is then going to impact all of us. And we need to find out whether that is the case. I genuinely don't know. And what I would like to know is what is going on with the OBR itself. I mean, this is an organisation that is supposed to help set our minds at rest. It's supposed to be, I mean, it stands for Office of Budget Responsibility. So it's something that it's a huge task in itself that they have to ensure that all the announcements, are fair to us as well. So this is something I'd like to know as well.
OK, Aisha Ali Khan, we have to leave it there. Chaos, utter chaos, and I think the public demands answers. Superb, as ever. Thanks for your contribution today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Aisha Ali Khan. Thanks. It's time now for the Great British Giveaway, and your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible 85 grand this time in tax-free moolah, could be yours in the new year. How astonishing would that be? It's like having over 7 grand extra in your bank each and every month for the whole of 2026. Oh my God, I want this. But you could really be our biggest cash winner, and here's all the details you need to enter.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, elsewhere mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Tell you what, we've got a story about potholes now that is just, ridiculous. Fed up residents in a quiet cul-de-sac in Banbury in Oxfordshire say they've been abandoned after being told that it could take 103 years to have their pothole-riddled road resurfaced. 103 years.
I could not believe it. Absolutely farcical. Anyway, the locals on Horsham Close say some of the potholes are like craters, adding it's yet another sign of Britain's crumbling infrastructure.
Yeah, we're going to speak now to pothole campaigner Mark Morrell, often known as just Mr. Pothole. I say just Mr. Pothole. My goodness.
Yeah, it's terrible. They've used the figure from the alarm survey. That's a survey, a report that shows just how bad our roads are, and used an average figure. But how naive or stupid, really, to actually put a figure in there rather than say it'll be done as and when, you know. I know the particular road, because the main road, Sussex Drive, that it comes off of, I campaigned some years ago, got it resurfaced. Last year, I actually used some AI as a free app called Stan the App and drove around the 34 miles of Banbury on the main routes and identified 1,500 severe defects on their main routes. So the side roads, a number of those cul-de-sacs are well outside their life. If you look at the average road, it lasts about 20 to 25 years. And in the same report, in 15 years' time, 52% of all the country's roads will be structurally unsound, and therefore we've got a major problem coming up. And it just reflects the attitude, really, from politicians and authorities that we have to accept to manage decline.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 5, I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News. Now, satellites could be used to spy on so-called luxury homes under Labour's new mansion tax surcharge. A Quango will use aerial photography, eyes in the sky, to spy on high-value homes when council tax has increased in a real-life version of Big Brother. Should we be concerned that Sir Keir Starmer has his eyes in the sky? That's the question. Let's speak now with Security and Intelligence Professor Anthony Glees. Anthony, a pleasure to have your company. Call me a cynic, but I don't like the idea of the government spying on me from space to see how big my garden is, how big my shed is, and how big my house is. Am I being cynical?
Well, I don't think you're being cynical, but I think you're expressing absolutely understandable discomfort at what seems to be a very un-British and over-the-top move. I mean, I believe in, spying on people. I believe in CCTV. I also believe in satellite spying, where you have a legitimate target. In this case, though, the satellites or the drones, we're not told which it's going to be, are apparently going to be used to do exactly what you say, to work out whether people's houses are worth 2 million quid or more. That is totally unnecessary and will have the effect of making it much harder to use CCTV, drones and satellite spying where it's necessary. I mean, I'm talking to you literally 5 miles away from the rubbish that was fly tipped on the A34. And we're told the people who tipped it there will have got £500,000 for putting it there. So we could imagine it will cost at least £1 million to get rid of it. Yet the Environment Agency had absolutely no spying, no drones, didn't know this was going on, even though it's been going on for a very long time.
OK. Anthony, back to this story, because the Valuation Office Agency, they've already done this in Wales. They worked out the value of properties in Wales to up the council tax. And I put it to you, this could be used for anything. They could see, for example, if you've got a new extension and drop you an extra bill. And this is the government that seems very, very addicted to surveillance society. They're going to put £1.8 billion into ID cards. They seem to be quite snoopy.
Well, Mark, as I say, I'm not against the authorities using technology to get the people who are here illegally, to get the people who are running, fake shops and money laundering and all that stuff. But I do think it is very un-British to use it against people who shouldn't even be suspected of having done anything wrong. I mean, most of us, if we're lucky enough to own our own homes, are proud of our homes, and our privacy and the privacy of our property is important to us. Where people break the law, I'm all in favour of the authorities getting involved, but not this. This is definitely a spy too far.
Thank you, Anthony Gleeson. We have to leave it there. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I sincerely do. Now, spokesperson for the Valuation Office Agency told GB News this: we're developing our approach and we'll set out more details in due course following the outcome of the government's consultation. For domestic valuations, we typically use sales data, property attributes, details and government records. We also inspect properties where needed. This is GB News. Stick with us. Loads more to come, including there have been 10 tax rises every week under this Labour government. They'll be going after your milkshakes next. Whoops, already did it. That's next. Stick with us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight, with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. A broken down vehicle on the A90 southbound at Forfar disrupts traffic. Possible congestion on the M4 eastbound at junction 33 Capel Lanilturn. In Leeds, an M62 eastbound collision between junctions 28 and 29 has closed 2 lanes. The A50 westbound in Derbyshire is partly blocked, causing 50-minute delays. M1 southbound at Newport Pagnell services is slowed by a breakdown. The A21 southbound in Kent faces 20-minute delays due to congestion. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruptions between Coventry and Rugby, and Cross Country has issues on multiple routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very good afternoon to you. It's 5 p.m. on this Friday afternoon. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK all the way through until 6 p.m. What a stonker of a show we've got you. Scandal is brewing at the heart of Parliament as Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been accused of misleading the public by allegedly cooking up a £20 billion black hole that simply didn't exist. Well, the OBR claimed it told the Chancellor 5 weeks ago that the deficit was only £2.5 billion, and then actually there was a surplus of over £4 billion. Here's the huge question. Did Rachel Reeves massage the numbers so she could tax Brits 30 billion quid to fund that benefits giveaway? And there's been a development in this past hour. Conservatives now demanding the Chancellor steps down. Now, the first major poll since the budget has landed, and it's carnage for the Labour Party. Keir Starmer would lose his seat to the Greens, the first time a Prime Minister would lose in their history. And moving on, satellites could be used to spy on luxury homes and the Labour's new council tax surcharge, helping identify properties worth over £2 million as Rachel Reeves targets property wealth. Is Keir Starmer's surveillance in full effect? Has the Labour Party got eyes in the sky? Meanwhile, Donald Trump has sensationally halted immigration from all third world countries as an Afghan immigrant shot 2 National Guards and killing one of them. Here's the question. Should Britain follow suit? And if so, which nations might be on Britain's ban list? And in case you haven't noticed, it's Black Friday, a £14 billion day, the biggest shopping day of the year, the perfect day to bag yourself a bargain and avoid those duds. And that's all coming up in your next hour. As if it couldn't get any more mad after the budget on Wednesday, it did. A scandal is enveloping the very heart of government. The OBR claiming they told the Chancellor as early as September the 17th, and definitely by Halloween, the government did not have a £20 billion black hole. They were actually £4 billion in the black. There was money in the bank. The big question is, why on earth, then, did we get stung with £30 billion of tax raises at the budget? What were they for? Was somebody there putting out a smokescreen? This is really, really heating up. Catherine Forster is joining us, and her screen is lighting up. The Conservatives demanding the Chancellor resigns. Don't go anywhere. Stick with us. GBNews.com/Your Say is the way to do so. And as your headlines, here's Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you. It's just gone 5 o'clock. These are your top stories. The US Department of Justice is upgrading charges for the Afghan man suspected of shooting and killing a National Guard member and wounding another to first-degree murder. It comes after the president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolfe, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman is in a serious condition. Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after an anti-corruption investigation. It's after Ukraine's anti-corruption agencies raided his apartment in Kyiv's government quarters early this morning. And Yermak said on social media that, from my side, there is full cooperation. The Ukrainian leader has also now announced a reshuffle of his presidential office as the result of Andriy Yermak's departure. The US is poised to recognise Russia's control over Crimea and other occupied Ukrainian territories to secure a deal to end the war, according to the Telegraph newspaper. It's understood that Donald Trump has sent his peace envoy, Steve Witkoff, and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to make the direct offer to Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The plan to recognise territory, which breaks US diplomatic convention, is likely to go ahead despite concerns among Ukraine's European allies. Now, back in the UK, the Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves' budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffiths spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Meanwhile, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon Day One workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important Day One protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
Elsewhere, a robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. 87-year-old John Mackey was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a Co-op store in North London on May the 6th. 59-year-old Augustine has been today sentenced to serve a minimum term of 23 years in prison. Mr. Mackey was treated in hospital for bleeding on the brain and broken ribs, but died from his injuries 2 days later. And prostate cancer screening should not be made routinely available for the vast majority of men in the UK, according to a committee advising the government. Sir Chris Hoy has said he is disappointed and saddened by the recommendation. The 49-year-old revealed last year his prostate cancer had spread to his bones and that doctors gave him between 2 and 4 years to live. It's understood the Health Secretary Wes Streeting is examining the evidence. Those are the latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3248 and €1.1417. The price of gold is £3,178 and 87 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 9,726 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Breaking news for you now. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been accused of misleading the public by cooking up a £20 billion black hole that didn't exist. And the breaking news in these last few moments, the shadow Chancellor, Sir Mel Stride, is calling for the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, to resign. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine Forster, it's really heating up now. The figure broke earlier on that £20 billion black hole didn't actually exist. In fact, the government was in the black, and now the political heat is really piling on the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves.
Yes, it's quite extraordinary because we heard for weeks and weeks and weeks there was a £20 to £30 billion black hole. The Chancellor gave an address to the nation at the beginning of November talking about difficult choices and downgrades because of productivity. And we now know, because information that the Office for Budget Responsibility sent to the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, that tax receipts had been so much better that they basically cancelled out this downgrade. And in fact, 4 days before Rachel Reeves gave that speech, the Treasury had been told that they were actually £4.2 billion up. So this speech was made trailing, potentially suggesting income tax rises. It didn't happen. We were told that the facts had changed. But now we find out that on the 17th of September, they knew that things were looking much better, but they persisted with this fiction of this black hole. And we've had a huge amount of criticism. The Shadow Chancellor, Sir Mel Stride, has said she spent the months leading up to the budget claiming she'd need to make difficult choices that were not of her making. But it appears that the country has been deliberately misled. In doing so, some people may even have faced higher mortgage rates thanks to the impact on markets from Labour's chaotic briefings. He goes on to say, real consequences for our economy, for people across the country. The Chancellor must now do the right thing and step down. Worth saying, obviously, he's the Shadow Chancellor, but even somebody like Paul Johnson, the ex-head of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, has said that press conference was designed to confirm a narrative that there was a fiscal black hole that needed to be filled with significant tax rises. In fact, as she knew at the time, no such hole existed. He has said that they have been misleading the public.
Now, you've been at Lobby today, Catherine Forster. I'd imagine this was the talk of the press pack. What are Number 10, what are Downing Street saying to you?
Well, there was a lot of stonewalling going on, and worth saying, I asked about this lack of a black hole in the Lobby briefing yesterday because the Institute for Fiscal Studies had said there is no fiscal repair job. These are choices. And basically we went round and round saying, we've been misled. You've misled the public, haven't you? And the Prime Minister's official spokesman just kept saying, look, you know, we did have that productivity downgrade. It's very difficult, but we wanted to have a 20 billion buffer, fiscal buffer. Well, fine, but that's not what we were told. Yeah. We were told things are very difficult. It's very hard. We're going to have to make difficult and necessary choices. That's not quite the same. Yeah. The government also suggesting this afternoon that basically they decided by that point that they needed this big amount of headroom. And so there was an effective black hole, but not a real one. I'm not sure that that's going to fly. That was not what we were told.
It sounds like a lot of waffle. Basically, people need to know very simply who knew what about this surplus, when did they know it, did the Chancellor know, and if it was known to the centre of government, why on earth did they sell the illusion of a £20 billion black hole and go on to tax the British public for £30 billion? People have had their taxes ratcheted up to fill a non-existent black hole. We demand answers, surely.
Yes, they have, and I think this story has got a long way to run because, as you say, this is a government that said they wouldn't put up taxes on working people. They've put up taxes on working people. You can argue about they didn't put up the headline rates. Taxes have gone up massively, and to fund fiscal headroom, but also to fund welfare spending. And at the same time, we now have heard, courtesy of the Financial Times, that basically the banks were assured that they would be left alone. JP Morgan the other day announced this big £10 billion London Tower in the heart of London. We now hear that a top government advisor went to New York to reassure them that the government would not be upping taxes on the banks. So ordinary working people, taxes are going up. But the top 1% largely left unscathed, and certainly the bank's pretty happy.
OK, Catherine Forster, incredible story. I'm sure you're right. This will have more and more legs to run. Let's move on to another big story now. It's the cost of migration. I'm hoping to be joined by my next guest, and that's the independent statistician and the political commentator, Jamie Jenkins. Jamie, no, that's not Jamie Jenkins. OK, that's not Jamie Jenkins. Catherine Forster, let's carry on with our story if we can. We're about to talk about the huge cost of immigration. That's something that will not go away. We had a big problem with the polling, came out on Budget Day, the Find Out Now poll we had in the previous hour, and it's just looking like carnage for the Labour Party.
It really is. I mean, I think that poll, they have them down below even the Greens, who seem to be surging. And the problem Labour now have, well, first of all, they ran on a manifesto saying that growth was going to pay for everything. We're not getting the growth, saying there were no need for big tax rises. We have had now big tax rises. Now this lack of information or potentially being misled about the reason for those tax rises. And people are fed up. People wanted change. They thought things would be better having got rid of the Tories. They're not. Living standards are on the floor, projected to still be on the floor. And now Labour, they've been worried about reform, and now they're worried about the Greens on the other side.
Thank you very much, Catherine Forster. Excellent as ever this week, and well done on your promotion. Now, back to that other big story, the cost of migration, and we can now speak with the independent statistician and the political commentator, Jamie Jenkins. Jamie Jenkins, thanks for joining us. The immigration figures came out yesterday. They seemed on the face of it to be quite good news for the government, in as far as they're a lot less than they were before. But the number is still big, still bigger than it ever was in the 80s or the 90s. And I wanted to talk to you about the types of people leaving the country and the types of people coming into the country, because I think we've got a big fiscal time bomb coming up. Our best are leaving, and people coming in from overseas, asylum seekers, they're a big net drain.
Yeah, good afternoon, Molly, and you pretty much summarised it quite well there. So the figures came out, and we saw a net migration figure in the year to June 2025 of 204,000. Now, we've seen that big Boris wave that we've talked about recently, about that, huge influxes and the big numbers we've had. So the numbers have come down, mainly to do with the reforms that Rishi Sunak put in because of the significant numbers we were seeing. So we've seen the number of work visas, study visas come down, and dependents come down. But that 200,000, okay, it sounds good news, But when you compare it to the 80s and 90s, where immigration was below 100,000, it's still a significant number. And so under the surface, what is driving this then? What we've still got in the numbers, and we continue to see this, is we've got net emigration. So that's people leaving the country from Brits. And that tends to be people around the ages of 16 to 34. So those people who normally go into the labour force, that kind of early jobs or the peak part of that labour market, Brits are leaving the country. And then what we're continuing to see is non-EU migrants coming in, more than the Brits that are leaving, which is adding to the population, and a similar number in terms of 16 to 34 in terms of the age groups, but there's more of them. So we're losing young Brits, they're going abroad. We're losing some people back to the EU as well, and we're seeing an influx of people from outside of the European Union who tend to do lower skilled jobs.
Jamie Jenkins, if you add all that together, what you get is a picture of a net fiscal loss of a lot of bright, young, potential high earners, or perhaps even a lot of existing high net worth individuals simply clearing off to places like Milan or Dubai. And then is it like a half of the immigration coming in now is asylum seeker immigration? And when you look at the net fiscal contribution to them, they generally don't add a lot. In fact, they can be a net drain. And also, they stay in Britain. They don't go home. Add that together, you've got a financial problem.
You do have a financial problem, and what you tend to find as well is that when people are coming to the most common countries people are coming from in this non-EU pool is from India, China and Pakistan. China tends to be a lot of students, and then you've got the other two countries, and they also tend to have larger families, Martin, and obviously with the lifting of the 2-child cap, they will probably disproportionately benefit because they will have larger families when they come over, and they'll be obviously get the benefits from there. The other interesting thing in the figures yesterday was the increase in asylum seekers in terms of the numbers of us claiming asylum. And the most remarkable figure that wasn't even in the ONS release this week was what was kind of leaked out of the Home Office, which is we've lost 54,000 illegal migrants. And so this is a Home Office that's clearly out of control. And if you read the annual report, Martin, they say their duty is to protect the border and protect the public. If you've got 50,000 people who've come in and you have no idea where they are, that's an ultimate failure. I'm surprised there's not calls for people to be resigning over this in the Home Office.
Everywhere you look, there's fresh scandal after scandal. Thanks for being patient. Thanks for joining us today. I always appreciate your expertise. I really do. Thank you, Jamie Jenkins. Now, in a few minutes' time, I'll have much more fallout from the budget. Would you believe it? There's been a tax rise every 10 days. Every 10 days since the Labour Party came into power. That's next with the Taxpayers Alliance on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's 5:22 on this Friday afternoon. I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's #1 news channel. Now, there was another setback for the Labour Party last night in the Red Wall. And intriguingly, it came in a place where the local MP is a top cabinet minister. That's right. Labour were beaten by Reform in a by-election in Hetton, which is a ward covered by Sunderland City Council. And it has the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, as its MP. Now, it was a gain for Reform from Labour after a massive 29-point swing. The Reform Party got more than 45% of the votes, while Labour were back in third with just 22%. Well, let's now speak with Ian McKinley, who won the seat for Reform UK. Ian, welcome to the show. I wanted to get you on today because Sunderland, of course, has been Labour forever. It's one of those parts of Britain where people could say it's just the way it is up there. Something seems to be changing. Reform UK went up there last night. What do the voters tell you?
Well, thank you first of all, Martin, for joining the celebrations here. We're really ecstatic about the results. The surprise is it's enormous. Labour has been here forever. And when I've spoken to people, they've said, when we're trying to find out what their voting intentions are, the reply was typically, I've always been Labour, but, and the but goes on from there to go on to say never again. And there's general apathy that you've seen in the past with people coming out to vote. The actual numbers that turned out was over 29%. It might not sound a lot to some people, but for a by-election, that is incredibly high. So the team got together and we really did motivate people to say this is worth coming out to vote for. And they have done in great numbers.
So, Ian, was this a local election? Or, obviously it was, but I'm saying, was this a local issues election? Or was this something more? Was this more like a referendum on the government, a referendum on Bridget Phillipson, who, of course, is the Education Minister? Was it a referendum even on the budget?
But sadly, this by-election came about as a result of, sadly, one of the councillors dying recently. And it was short notice, very short notice. We've got local council elections coming up in May, where we hope to, we will have 75 candidates ready to apply for the seats there and get voted in with the luck that I'm having. They should manage to do that. And so it was very short notice, and we've managed to rally round and get that support that we needed. But we didn't quite expect the amount of support that we did get from people. But and even to Ian, the very...
Just trying to quickly get to the number if we could. You know, what was... Yes. Was this a local election or was it more than that? Was it locals expressing their dissatisfaction with central government?
It's a local election, but generally speaking, it's dissatisfaction with everything. It goes much further. Local government really aren't doing what they want them to do. These are the coalfields. These are people who have been let down for decades by all the governments that have been around here for some time now. And with hope, with Labour coming in only a year and a half ago, they expected change, and it hasn't happened. And when you contact for support in the local council, there's no answers that we're looking for coming back in response. So it is a mixture. It's national, and that definitely is the major problem here.
Okay. Ian, I'm afraid we have to move on. We've got a breaking news line on the Rachel Reeves story about the black hole. But Ian McKinley, thank you very much for joining us. That's the recently elected councillor up there in Sunderland for Reform. Ian, thanks for your time. Let's get straight back at you to breaking news. So I'm joined in the studio by William Yarwood from the Taxpayers Alliance. William, you had come in to talk about 10 tax rises every week under the Labour Party, a Taxpayers Alliance exclusive. But it feels like things have moved on since then, because we have what now appears to be a widening scandal around this £20 billion black hole, or lack of. I understand you've got some more lines for us.
Yeah, Martin. So what we're now having is the Treasury is briefing against the Office for Budget Responsibility, which is completely crazy. So the Treasury's hit back against the OBR after they released a forecasting earlier today, and they said that the Treasury had taken unusual steps in publishing the non-existent black hole in the public finances in the run-up to the budget, and they actually suggested that the OBR breached the security of the budget, which is highly ironic considering the Treasury has been consistently leaking the budget all the way up until it was actually released, and it's actually destroyed the sanctity of the discussions between the Treasury and the OBR, with the Treasury spokesperson saying, "We take budget security extremely seriously and believe it's important to preserve a private space for Treasury OBR policy and forecast discussions. So we welcome the OBR's confirmation that this will not become usual practice in the future." This is a complete mess. You have the government official forecasting watchdog releasing forecasts that showed that Rachel Reeves did not have a £20 billion black hole, and now the Treasury is panicking and now briefing against the Office for Budget Responsibility. This scandal is a complete and utter mess. I know you guys are covering it, but I'm not sure why this isn't a top headline for absolutely everyone in the country at the moment.
BBC apparently aren't even showing a flicker of interest in this, which I think is incredible. And nobody is saying, let's just repeat, nobody's saying that Rachel Reeves knew about this. Nobody's saying that this is some sort of cover-up. What we are saying is, what's the blooming truth? Who knew what? When did they know it? And if the official OBR recommendation is there isn't a black hole, in fact, we have a $4 billion surplus, and yet we're still being sold the illusion that there is a black hole, someone, somewhere, knew something, and we need to know who and where.
Exactly, and I think the dates are important with this. So the OBR forecast that they got that deficit into actually a surplus from was on October the 31st. That was about £4.2 billion. Rachel Reeves gave her pre-budget speech where she sort of scared everyone about income tax on the 4th of November. So a few days afterwards. Now, you're right, we don't know the specifics about this, but you think that within those few days the OBR would have talked to the Chancellor. After all, the Chancellor is a big fan of the OBR and actually strengthened it when she first came into power back in 2024. You think that she would know about this forecasting and actually then would be able to, change her budget plans around. But she hasn't. So this £20 billion black hole that she was meant to fill was actually a £20 billion black hole of her own creation because she wanted to hike welfare spending. And actually the reason she wanted to hike welfare spending, Martin, it was purely political, to keep her own Labour backbenchers on side. I think this is a complete and utter scandal. And if Labour, if they did know about this, I'll say this, if they did know about this, they should have just been honest with us and said, OK, we want to increase taxes because we want to increase spending on welfare. I would have disagreed with that, but at least that would have been the honest way to go about it, not hiding behind OBR forecasts.
Sir Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, has issued a statement in this past few minutes. He's demanding the resignation of the Chancellor. He's saying Rachel Reeves' broken tax promises and the briefing debacle in the run-up to the budgets have had real consequences for our economy and for people across the country. The Chancellor must now do the right thing and step down. Now, William Yarwood, politicians demand their counterparts stand down all the time. But key questions remain. If they knew there was a surplus and they kept stum, if they sold the illusion that we all had to be in this together, we all had to bend over and take these tax rises, it was the only way of salvaging the economy, knowing it wasn't as bad, heads must roll.
Yeah, they need to, Martin. And also there's an issue with misleading the markets here, basically, saying one thing and doing another. Like, if this was any big business, the Financial Conduct Authority would be knocking on your door and asking, for direct answers and for someone's head to roll. So I think something genuinely needs to happen, whether that's the Chancellor's resignation or not. But actually, let's put it this way. If this happened while the Conservatives were in power, what do you think Rachel Reeves would be saying right now? She'd be calling for the current Chancellor to resign and saying this is lying to the British public, this is misleading the British public, and yet we've heard not a single peep out of her, and actually Downing Street just saying, nothing to do with us, we actually know nothing about this, there's nothing wrong with this, we're just pursuing our plan for change. It's a complete mess.
And also at the briefing meeting today, the lobby meeting, Catherine Forster went there, Downing Street saying nothing to see here. Yep. They're sticking to the party line. And I think over the weekend, surely answers need to come out. Just to repeat, though, Downing Street are completely denying there's anything to see here. Nobody's suggesting that Rachel Reeves knows anything. We didn't even get around to your 10 taxes every week under the Labour Party. We'll have to save that for another time. But William Yarwood, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Always a pleasure. No doubt I'll see you over the road for maybe a quick shop after the show. Thank you very much, Captain Yarwood. Now, time for a brand new Great British giveaway now, and your chance to win our biggest cash prize today. It's an astonishing 85 grand in tax-free moolah. Could be yours in time for the new year. What a time to get that. Wouldn't that be great? Well, it's like having 7 grand extra in your bank each month for the whole of 2026. Who wouldn't want that? Well, you could win it.
It's the greatest cash prize of a Great British giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, plenty more to come throughout the rest of the show. But for now, if you're travelling home from work or from school, please stay safe. Here's your traffic and your travel update, and please stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. In Birmingham, the M6 southbound between junctions 6 and 5 has delays due to a collision, with normal conditions expected by 8:53 tonight. The M25 in Thurrock faces significant congestion clockwise between junctions 29 and 30 due to a road collision, causing 50-minute delays. On the A90 southbound near Forfar, expect a partial blockage from a broken-down vehicle. On the A50 westbound in Derbyshire, an overturned vehicle is causing delays. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services between Coventry and Rugby and cross-country routes are disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Later this hour, we'll have more on the fact it's Black Friday, of course, with Brits spending billions of pounds. Of course, because as much as 14 billion over the weekend. First, though, some of your headlines, and here's Sophia Wensler.
Martin, thank you. Your headlines at 5:34. Shadow Chancellor Sir Mel Stride is calling for the Chancellor to resign. It comes as Rachel Reeves has been accused of misleading the public in the run-up to the budget by, quote, cooking up a £20 billion black hole that didn't exist. The US Department of Justice is upgrading charges for the Afghan man suspected of shooting and killing a National Guard member and wounding another to first-degree murder. Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff has resigned after an anti-corruption investigation. Prostate cancer screening should not be made routinely available for the vast majority of men in the UK, according to a committee advising the government. It's understood Health Secretary Wes Streeting is examining the evidence. And Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 5:39. You with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, satellites could be used to spy on so-called luxury homes under Labour's new mansion tax surcharge. A Quango will use aerial photography to spy on high-value homes, with council taxes are being increased in what's being called a real-life version of Big Brother. Now, the Valuation Office Agency has confirmed it will use modern technology when Rachel Reeves's raid on some of the UK's most expensive homes is brought in. But let's now speak with the policing and the crime commentator and the former Labour advisor, Danny Shaw. Danny, welcome to the show. Am I being out of order to say I don't want Sir Keir Starmer's eyes in the sky spying on my house?
Martin, I've never known such a story to be so exaggerated and hyped up as something like this. If you don't like the council tax raid, the tax policies, that's absolutely fine. I mean, everyone's entitled to have a view about whether they think it's right or not for additional taxes to be imposed on some of the wealthiest property owners. That's absolutely fine. That's a different argument. But if you're going to revalue properties so you ensure that the right people are paying the tax that has been decided, and that people who shouldn't be paying the tax aren't paying it, then you've got to find a way of checking those properties to see whether how many acres, gardens and so on, how many outbuildings they might have, and why not make use of technology? We're all used to using satellites to get around, to travel around, Google Earth and all the rest of it. What's wrong with using technology to do that rather than having someone knocking on your door, snooping around, looking at your house, and so on? I mean, this is just common sense. This is an overblown, ridiculous story in my view. I'm sorry, Martin, but I honestly think it is.
Well, people don't agree with you, Danny. This is the problem.
That's
we seem to have a government that's almost addicted to surveillance. We saw in the budget this week. OK, well, they want to spend £1.8 billion of the Home Office budget, which, by the way, should also be better spent on border protection and trying to stop the constant arrival of small boats. How about spending £1.8 billion on that? Instead, they want to spend it on digital ID. The guise is that will help stop illegal immigration. That's a fantasy. They have it in Italy, in Germany, in lots of other European countries, and it hasn't done a single thing to stop illegal immigration. My point is, this is a surveillance government. They seem to get high on it.
Go and live in a surveillance state. Go and live in North Korea. Go and live in a country where you don't have rights, where you don't have freedom of speech, where you can't do what you want, and then you'll see what a surveillance state is like. This isn't a surveillance state. The digital ID scheme, I have my reservations about whether it will work from a practical basis. There's going to be a consultation on it. I would want to look very carefully at that and the costs and the practicalities of it, whether it's feasible or not. And whether it will actually help tackle illegal working and give people easier access to the benefits and services they're entitled to. That's the big question on that. But the government's not interested on snooping. They've got enough problems on their plate, as demonstrated this week, worrying about that or trying to conduct some kind of surveillance on people. I mean, that's just a nonsense, Martin. I think you know it.
No, I don't know it. What I do know is that during COVID lockdowns, Sir Keir Starmer wanted harder surveillance. He wanted earlier lockdowns. He wanted a mandatory digital COVID passport backed by the Tony Blair Foundation, the same people now that are behind this digital ID. Danny, I'm putting it to you that the Labour Party seem very intent on watching where we go, and an ID scheme in the guise of controlling immigration is the way we're being sold it. A lot of people don't believe that. Millions of people have signed a petition against it.
The independent judicial inquiry into the COVID pandemic found that we should have locked down earlier, and that would have saved 23,000 lives, I think it was, and would probably have helped avert further lockdowns and further restrictions if that had taken place. So that argument, I just absolutely just doesn't hold water at all, Martin. I think you know that as well.
No, I don't know that either. Because in other countries where they didn't do that,
efficiencies,
like
they're
in
not really
Sweden,
interested in surveillance.
You don't think then that this government is an authoritarian left government that likes things like COVID passports, that may use the current digital ID, the planned one, for further clampdowns on our liberties in the future? You don't think that's a legitimate concern? Millions of people disagree with you, Danny.
Well, I worked for 7 months for the Labour Party before the election for Yvette Cooper and her team, and I can tell you that there was no interest whatsoever in surveillance, in snooping, in anything like that whatsoever. What they was interested in is trying to devise some policies that would win Labour the election, and sort of campaign materials, and then to devise some policies for government around knife crime, violence against women and girls, neighbourhood policing, border security, and a new immigration system. That's what we were focused on. And the idea that they're interested in state surveillance or snooping on people, all the rest of it, is just a complete nonsense. So that's my experience from having worked for them. And it's also my experience from observing at the moment. They have huge problems, and they're not doing a good enough job in a number of areas, particularly around small boats and the problems and so on there. But the idea that they want, that there's some kind of agenda for them to increase state surveillance is just for the birds.
OK, Danny, we'll have to agree to disagree, but I sincerely do appreciate your time and your input. As ever, thank you very much for joining us on GB News today. Danny Shaw, appreciate your time. Thank you. Now, a spokesperson for the Valuation Office Agency told GB News this: "We are developing our approach and will set out more details in due course following the outcome of the government's consultation. For domestic valuations, we typically use sales data, property attributes details and government records. And we also inspect properties where needed." But now then, moving on, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, elsewhere mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
I'm Camilla Tominey. This is GB News, Britain's election channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Me and my mum, and look, it looks real, doesn't it?
It isn't. I thought that was real when I first saw it.
Not that you'll be able to see it, but anyway, it's me and mum.
Things like that, AI is amazing, isn't it? Because your mum's no longer with us.
Yes.
You've got a lovely video of you hugging her.
Yeah.
Which is lovely.
Which is not real, but anyway. It's but I liked it. Like the idea, I thought they've done it very well.
Yeah.
It's quite. But good luck to kids learning to tell the difference between all of that.
Well, we are talking about education today. Lots of you getting in touch. Edmund says, my grandson ended up going to hospital with stress over his exams. GCSEs are too much, I think. They've gotten harder and harder. They're not like they were when I was at school. I only got 3 exams done at 16 and then I dropped out afterwards.
What, you get 3 exams at 16?
That's what Edmund got. He says GCSEs are much harder now. Peter says some of us were self-sufficient at 15 years old. We were growing our own food, we were collecting fuel for our fires, and we had paper jobs, not playing with phones and on social media all the time.
That's a very good point. That's absolutely right. You know, people were fighting in the First World War and the Second World War at 15, 16, 17. And, you know, I mean, pressure. I mean, I just think I think we should teach kids to be more resilient.
Yes.
That's the thing. I think that you just can't say they've buckled and we see that as the latest stage. Some of you may agree with me, but I mean, everybody. I mean, how the heck? I could bore you silly, believe me, bore you silly with pressure and things you did for school and you know, what was expected. There was just no tolerance for any leniency in my school at all. But we got through it and I can say happiest days of my life still.
Well, maybe resilience needs to be taught in the national curriculum. Maybe it needs to be taught more
Resilience,
at home.
good idea.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
It's 5:49 and it's Black Friday. Of course, that's the biggest shopping day of the year. The perfect time to bag yourself a bargain. £14 billion is going to get spent today. Let's cross to Bristol, where GB News' national reporter Jack Carson is at an Amazon distribution centre. Jack.
Well, here we are at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre here in Bristol. Today, on Black Friday, in this whole period, the UK will spend £6.5 billion, and 4 in every £5 that it spends is going to be online. So here at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol, this is where so many of those orders come into. We've seen upstairs at the Fulfilment Centre today just how the robots are there involved at the start of the process, but of course the big part is getting them in a box to be able to get them to you. Richard Griffiths, the General Manager, joins us. I mean, this is such a key part of the process. Just explain for us how this part works.
Yeah, so I can show you. It's probably the easiest. So this is our pack process. This is where we're placing items, customer orders on their way to our customers into the packaging ready. So it's a case of taking an item and scanning. And this one is one of our items that will be shipped in its own packaging as part of our efforts to reduce our footprint. We apply a SPOO label, which has all of the customer details on, and then we place it onto our line where it will head up to receive the customer shipping label.
And just how busy, is a day like Black Friday for you?
Over the course of today, we will be shipping millions of units from our sites across the UK, and this site is no exception. Be it Christmas gifts right through to a pair of socks, perhaps. We know that our customers can rely on us to get our shipments out the door and on the way to them when they need it.
Well, can I have a go?
Of course you can.
Okay, right, let's do it. So can I go and pick any item out of this box?
Any item.
Okay, well, many people buying technology today, so somebody might want an iPad case. So we'll scan it there.
Correct.
And that is an
the transparency
scan
code.
The transparency code.
Yep. And this is a PSYOP as well, so we're going to take a sticker.
So that's so this doesn't even need a bag. So we sticker on that.
Scan it under the scanner.
Scan it under the scanner.
And place it onto the line.
Place it onto the conveyor belt. And that, could be your iPad case coming to you here on Black Friday. Richard, thank you so much for showing us how all of this works. As we were saying, and as Richard was saying, there are thousands, millions of units across the UK from fulfilment centres like this one, because Black Friday, we know, is huge here in the UK. We haven't even got to Cyber Monday, of course, when so much of the online sales begin. Black Friday today alone, as we were saying, 4 in every £5 is spent online, and this is where these distribution centres here come into their own, packing those orders and getting them out to you so you can enjoy those Black Friday deals.
Super. So I've got to say, it's great to see Jack Carlson doing some work for once. He's been in boozers all week, talking to people about the reactions from the budget. So thanks for your time today. I've got to say, what a situation is emerging today about the OBR, the £20 billion black hole that wasn't a black hole. That was the basis for all of the tax rises, all the pain that you'll be feeling over the coming weeks, months and years. Was it built on the illusion there wasn't a black hole at all? The OBR saying we're £4 billion in the green. Have we been duped? Will this scandal emerge over the weekend? Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, is already saying there should be resignations. Anyway, next is due to go tonight by the magnificent Miriam Cates. Miriam, what's on your menu?
Good evening, Martin. Well, it does certainly seem to be a Black Friday for Rachel Reeves. We'll be discussing the latest with the OBR. Why did she raise taxes when she didn't need to, and what will be the political and economic consequences of that? What's Trump doing over immigration? Why are young people fleeing the country? And great news, the French are going to stop the boats as long as they don't contain any migrants. All that after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Drivers on the M90 northbound between junctions 1 and 1 should expect partial road blockage due to a traffic incident. Capel Lanhill turns M4 eastbound off-slip has congestion. On the M62 eastbound, a collision between junctions 28 and 29 has closed 2 lanes, causing 40-minute delays. Derbyshire commuters face southbound A38 delays between the A50 and A5132. The M54 westbound has congestion and 15-minute delays between junctions 1 and 2. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast and cross-country services are disrupted on routes such as Coventry to Rugby. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For a chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Blinds close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.